them and putting down what we have now, what we're working at
Well,
now.
I'm not putting down what we have now, but I'm more saying that right now with this rampant materialism, this Western view that the game is acquisition and consumption, and a denial of the inner world and the inner journey, that's a prescription for disaster. And so people tend to get seduced by the fact that they can drive around in a big SUV and da-da-da-da, and they get seduced by the creature comforts and think that somehow their life is worth more or superior to the person in India that's selling,
But I think
sandalwood.
that basic, what you call materialism, I think is a thought system that is in all cultures. And what has happened in this culture is our technology has amplified it, so that we can now. The basic thought system says that whether or not I'm happy or at peace depends upon what I have or do in the world. And you can find that in this culture, in very primitive culture.
Well, have and do are two different things in my
I know they are, yeah. I'm saying they're two different things.
Okay.
What you have is what you have, what you do,
Right.
how you experience the world, how other people experience you.
Right.
All of this determines how you feel. And what all the great traditions say, no, that isn't true. It's actually how you perceive the world that is critical. But if you have that belief system, I think that goes right, you can see it right throughout our Western history. It's always been there. And that's why people have abused each other and stolen and many, many things. It's just that today, that way of thinking with the technology we have is devastating the planet, because we're not just affecting our immediate environment with a 10-foot radius. And we can,
There's only so many trees you're going to cut down with a stone axe.
Or when we get angry with each other, we don't just beat each other up. We go
you go and
kill
destroy
lots of other civilians as collateral damage or whatever.
Right, exactly.
But it's that belief system. It isn't something that's just arisen in this culture at this time. It's been there all throughout history. And what we have today is we've come to the point where we can see that belief system and a high technology do not fit together.
Right.
And one of them must go.
Right.
We can't
Well, the
integrate
belief
them. We can't integrate them.
I don't know. I think we have to move beyond that belief system, and that's where the mystic comes in. I think what all the great mystics, teachers, yogis have said is that belief system is actually an illusion, and it doesn't actually work. Getting something, you get something, whether it's a new jacket or promotion or whatever.
Sure.
You feel great for a little while, but the reason you feel great isn't because you have something. The reason you feel great is
You no longer want it.
You stopped wanting it for a while. You stopped craving it for a while, and then you find something else to want, and you chase that. And so we become addicted to things and experiences, and we keep on chasing after something in the belief if only we got enough of the right things, we'd finally find nirvana.
So this has thrown our whole balance between inner and outer out of whack.
Because it keeps our attention focused on the outer. I think this is why our society focuses on the outer. We believe if only we can control the outer in the right way, we'll find fulfillment.
So this sort of thought system has always been there, but now that technology has gotten to the point where we can wreck the planet, it's a real problem.
Yeah, exactly. This thought system, we could get by in the past. We caused each other a lot of suffering and pain with it, and we weren't very happy. But now we're actually threatening our own continued existence.
Then how do we talk to the thought system and inculcate some kind of mass consciousness revolution now before we do wreck the planet?
Slowly happening.
Talking about it like we are now, talking in our communities. I think there are millions of people beginning to wake up and see there's another way of experiencing things, and do what we each can do in our lives to facilitate that in the area in which we have influence.
We had our Nietzsche quote put up here, so I think I'm obligated, since the hallmark of this show is to have at least one Nietzsche quote for show. So this one is, perhaps nobody yet has been truthful enough about what truthfulness is. And that goes to this question of the inner journey, the inner dialogue, and what is really the veneer that people don't like to look beyond because it's uncomfortable to really stand and look in that mirror. And I think that's what, and Peter, I don't know if I I think that while what you say, I agree that has always been there and it doesn't work now, but I think that there was a less of an incidence of it in the past. I think
it's more widespread now.
It's more widespread now. Like you go to India. I go to India on a pretty regular basis, and there's a level of awareness that just speaks to a consciousness. Like the metaphor was, it was beautiful. It was a busy day in Bombay, and there's a dog sleeping in the middle of the sidewalk. And it's a big wide sidewalk, 20 people could walk shoulder to shoulder down. Here's a dog sleeping. And people were walking, not looking at the dog, stepping this far away from it, but they were aware of that dog. And I said to my traveling companion, I said, look at that, this is a great metaphor. Look how aware these people are of where that dog is lying, and they're not even like walking around, they're just walking over. The dog is comfortable, not moving, and they're just boom. I said, if that was lying in a street in Palo Alto, somebody would have tripped over it and sued somebody, because it's this self-absorption. And you look at how people drive. He's driving 55 in the passing, 4 people driving 55, right straight across, and you got a line of cars behind them. I see that all the time. There's this self-absorption.
Isn't that the limit, though? Isn't that the speed
What's
limit?
That?
Isn't that the speed limit?
So you're one of those people.
You're suggesting people should break the law?
Well, I think people have an obligation to break certain laws. I think that we should have a meritocracy, for instance, democracy. I think is
you're
way
on dangerous
overstated.
ground.
What's
there.
that?
You're on dangerous ground there.
Well, see, democracy. I'm very against democracy, and Plato was as well. So I'm in good company. To me, democracy at its best, when it's forget the representative democracy, which just leads to all kinds of abuses. But let's say everybody actually got to decide on every issue, the way the ancient Greeks did by casting lots or whatever. Say
Very small percentage of the people in the ancient Greek civilization.
well, but you know what I'm saying. So a very small percentage of people. But let's say that there was not the representative democracy. At best, it's 50.00001% of the people tell the other 49.999% what to do. And I don't think that's right. When you look at, large populations follow a bell-shaped curve, plus or minus 1 standard deviation, you have, I think, 67% of the population. So what about the people the Übermenschen, as Nietzsche talked about, that are 5 or 10 sigma off to the right of these, if you measure it on some, consciousness, some single parameter? Why should they be told what to do? In other words, if I'm a good driver, why can't I drive at a speed that's safe for me? And somebody that's not a good driver, maybe they should, drive at the speed that's safe for them.
Well, I think it should be.
Everybody thinks they're a good driver.
But if you have no accidents, it's empirical.
I admit,
it's empirical data.
I'm a terrible driver. I think
so you should drive the speed limit.
Yeah, I do. But I think everything should be decentralized so that there would be democracy within your village, and you would decide on everything that was most important to you, and then the only things that would basically need to be decided extra village would be, defense if that was necessary. Unfortunately, hopefully that wouldn't be necessary, but I have a hard time getting from now to then.
Right.
But that would sort of solve that problem of democracy, I think.
But why do we have to take the village or the small town as the only
Or the
or the
city.
highest
Or the
political
city. Well, if
unit?
a city
But then
could
you
have
can
it
just
be a
pursue it up to
political
the
unit.
region and so forth. I mean, there's anarchists that's a version of anarchy, although unfortunately the word has different
Well, it's two
associations.
different.
than
So it's the bomb
than the
throwers. It's
historical
also the people that are,
But they're what is sometimes called libertarian socialism embraces that view. But on my understanding, you're not limited to one particular unit. You do go up levels,
Yes.
even up to the nation and globally. You can
But at
follow
that
it
point,
up.
it becomes more representative.
Sure. But I don't see, Galen, why we have to throw out democracy. We can have many criticisms of democracy and say, well, it's not working particularly well now. But it doesn't seem to me endemic to democracy itself that it can't work.
It's
Well,
endemic
what do
to
you
our
re-
mentalities that it's
Well,
not working.
It's worked pretty well for
Why
200
you
years.
can separate democracy from
Depends.
any particular realization
Well,
of it. And you know,
Well, I wish I could think of
Depends if
who
you're a man or
said
a
it, but there was a political theorist that said democracy ultimately leads to dictatorship. Is because, basically when you realize that the majority can vote
that's-
themselves largesse of the public treasury, I mean, basically what's going
that's
on
what
now.
Plato said. I mean,
Well,
it
yeah,
led
that's
to
what Plato
dictatorship.
said.
Yes.
And so I would argue that, the enlightened philosopher king is possibly maybe a superior form of
And it should be
Let me
you.
guess right. it would
No,
be
no,
you.
no, I'm not. I think it could be actually done in a computer program.
Ah.
You put a lot of information in where it's objective.
Run by Microsoft. Good idea.
No. Not run by Microsoft. And I'm not,
HP maybe.
well, maybe HP. Still have lots of stock. But,
You know what's really going to happen is we're going to finally figure a way to get off planet. And it might be 100 or 200 years. We're not going to wreck the whole biosphere, and all sorts
think in
of
100 years we're not gonna wreck the
multiplicities
biosphere?
of life forms will evolve from us. Whoa, I'm so excited I dropped that.
and off the planet stuff.
And more political systems than we've ever thought of will be tried over, I guess I kind of believe in sort of an Isaac Asimov or Heinlein view of reality. We will get off planet.
Well, what
And
I
about
don't believe
what
in
I
about
think
off
it's
planet.
time.
That's good.
It's not time.
You don't think?
No.
well, what about is it time for the people who are off the planet now to let us know that they exist?
I don't believe in off the
childhood's
planet.
end. You don't believe in off the planet? You don't believe that there's intelligent life in the cosmos?
I think there is, but not on these big rocks out there. I think that
They're
it's
interdimensional.
yes.
They're dimensional beings, so they're standing in this room possibly.
Oh yeah, if
Who
we could
knows?
see them, they might be a bunch in here. Or
I mean, we are so stuck in our thinking that this is the ultimate level of civilization.
Right.
And we imagine any species that, much more highly evolved is going to somehow be more highly evolved than us traveling around in tin cans through space.
Yeah. No, actually, I don't envision that. I see them being interdimensional beings. That they effectively, it's the old flatland analogy. You're living in a two-dimensional world, and I'm a three-dimensional being, and I put my hand into your world, and all of a sudden it's magic. It just appeared, and all of a sudden it's gone. That's the same way. They just step into our four-dimensional reality.
Sure, so there's no need to actually travel out into
No,
space.
they're in they transcend.
This is it.
This is it.
Yeah.
So, but I do believe there's consciousness that's certainly beyond our
human.
consciousness. Yeah. So, what does Ken Wilber have to say about objectivity? The green meme, I think, is something you mentioned to me. Can you tell us a little bit about what is a meme and what is a green meme? I didn't know memes had
Well-
colors until I heard Ken.
Ken uses the word meme with respect to the theory of spiral dynamics, where they talk about value memes.